nothing.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So here we are. We're on the YouTube.
The YouTube.
Don't
Yeah,
you love it when people do that? I'm gonna
hey,
go
I did
down
it.
and yeah, the
I did it.
YouTube, the Walmart,
The
the Costco,
YouTube.
whatever,
Yes.
whatever. It's like go for it, man. Go for it.
Oh my gosh, the things we do. So I am so happy that we are here on Wednesdays. So we're, 'cause sometimes you just have to change things up.
Mix
So
it up. Gotta mix it up.
we're going to be here on Wednesdays for a while. I don't know for how long,
That's
but
good.
the thing you
That's
can
good.
count on is that we'll be here every week. We just don't know how that's always going to roll out.
Yeah. Speaking of mixing it up, I'm mixing it up today by not having my external mic, and you probably hear like this massive echo going on. So that'll be different the next time we meet. It will be. It will not be as echoey.
Yeah. So
we're all about change. We're all about change.
that's right. We're all about pivots, right?
That's it.
And
Small pivots.
that's right. And I have to tell you that the reason that Shane sounds like he's in a cave is because him and his wife Reese have emptied the nest and have flown to a new
coop,
location.
Man. We have flown the coop.
Yes, so they're in transition, and I'm just so grateful that instead of using that as an excuse, you're like, let's go.
Man.
So grateful.
I got my outdoor lawn chair pulled up and ready.
The things we do, man.
That's right, man. That's right. It's amazing what lengths you will go to do what it is you really enjoy, right? Like the stuff you really enjoy, you'll figure out. You'll find a way. You'll find a way to make a way to do it.
Yeah, and you won't just find a way, make a way, man, but nothing will any obstacle that steps into your path will not be an excuse.
That's right.
It will just be a thing. What are you going to do about it?
Just the thing. That's it.
Just the thing.
Yeah, it's
so
good.
I want to dive in, Shane. We have been talking about the essentials of scale. And last week we touched on the first essential. There's 3. We've really drilled this down, all of the things that go into scale to 3 steps. Yep, only 3. Just 3 that really matter. Right. And the first one that we have identified just over the course of so many years of leading and scaling and losing and scaling and losing and failing and scaling, all that stuff, we have found that it's very hard to go get more people that want to buy your service or your stuff or want what you're offering if the business is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean financially, because the one thing I'm going to drill home today is that the money and the numbers of people cannot be the goal. And we're going to talk about that. So the indirect result of attending to these 3 essentials is money and is people. That will not be a problem. And so the first point that we really drilled down on was sustainability, but really around sustainability of acquiring a certain type of human that finds value in what you're doing, so much so they'll stay in it till they get what they want, or they will come back. They'll be loyal to the process. Yeah. And so that's what you really want. Like, just to sell is not what we're talking about here. So I want to make sure that we all understand that is the first and most important essential to scale is sustaining the same kind of flow of clients, and then helping those clients get what they want. These 3 essentials roll up to only 2 important objectives that every owner, anyone that is trying to do anything, whether they're trying to cash in on their expertise, they're trying to sell a product they're really passionate about, or they're wanting to help more people. They're wanting to put people in seats because they believe they have a message that's transformative. If you fall into any of those categories, the only 2 things that really matter in that process is always acquiring the people that find value in what you're doing, and always helping those people get what they want first. And that really starts with it starts with sustainability. We have to sustain the messaging and the process that we deliver the outcome to them. Mm. So the second essential we're going to dive into today is duplication. Now, I'm going to be real honest here. Is that the truth is success without duplication is simply future failure. Mm. Because the problems of this world are really, truly solved in two ways: extinction or duplication. So there is a woman that said, as a young executive, and she said this actually, Susan Sontag. Is it Sontag? Sontag? How do you pronounce her last name?
Tomato. I think it's Sontag.
Yeah. Okay.
I could be wrong.
Well, we're both in the South. We're going to say Sontag.
Sontag.
Yeah. And if we got that wrong and she's watching this or anyone sends this to her, we are so sorry.
We are. Please tell us.
Please tell us. So when I read her words, the problems of this world are truly solved in two ways: extinction or duplication. I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. And when I first heard this information, I was young. And part of my experience as a young executive and leader at 23 is I watched every business I watched business, different kinds of businesses in every industry either die or duplicate. That's what they were doing. They were either going away or they were getting bigger and more powerful. Have you seen that changes over the course of your time in business?
Yep. And I didn't catch on to this, so it takes me a minute to see things. You're a quick study, man. You're like, bam, there it is. You see it. For me, I got to experience it multiple failures before I went, wait a minute. We're trying to reinvent the wheel over here. Like, no, we got what is duplicatable. And when we stay with it, we're sustainable. And when we go away from it, we're not. Like, hello. Like, have you seen that before? Like, you have success in one area, and then you're like, ooh, what we ought to do is like this other thing over here. That, it's totally different audience, totally different product, hey, we'll go and grow the business that way. No, you won't.
Yeah, no.
Because that's not duplication. No. That truly is not duplication in the way in which we're framing it up and defining it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not duplication in the way that the systems of technology you're using are duplicating things. So it's very important to understand the culture we live in, what it's driven by, what it's influenced by, and the tools at our fingertips, the very things we're trying to use to help more people and to sell more of our stuff. And those systems of technology duplicate at a very different way than just adding on more content.
I thought, that's a great way. I thought duplication was addition. It's like, it's really multiplication.
Well,
it's really multiplication.
It is. Right? That's right. That's right. It is not addition. It is multiplication. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that with enough hard work, you could succeed in anything. And one day I would have enough success, AKA money, that I could relax and slow down and enjoy all of this hard work. But I read something in my favorite book on the planet. I had a mentor say to me a long time ago, he said, Amy, it's not enough just to get knowledge. You have to get wisdom. And I said, well, what is the difference? He said, knowledge is information. Like a library is a collection of knowledge. It's books with lots of knowledge and information in them. But unless I go into that library and I start to organize that knowledge and information and do something with it, I will not achieve wisdom. Wisdom is taking the knowledge and putting it into action. And my favorite book on the planet says in Proverbs 23:4-5, do not weary yourself. Like, hey, don't hustle to gain wealth. Cease actually from the consideration of gaining wealth, because when you set your eyes on it, it is gone. For wealth certainly makes itself like wings and like an eagle that flies towards the heavens. And so the reality is, what this is saying is if all we are focused on is making more and more money, we'll never have enough. If we are focused on having so many people sitting in the seats, we will never have enough. And here is the reality, is that most of my life, I understood success to come through a linear process. So I could only see things logically by using this direct approach and aiming for my goals specifically. So the goal would be every day to sell X amount of products. The goal every month was to have X amount of revenue. And that was a very logical process. It was very direct. And so in order to get there, what do I need to do to sell more stuff? I need to talk to more people. I need to sell more things. Well, those people aren't buying the things. Maybe I need to make new things for them. And so it was like this known step-by-step progression where my next step was dictated before another step could be taken. So I can't move on to this thing until I've achieved that thing. I can't actually do X until I make enough money. And after years of struggling and never actually making enough money or having enough people to talk to, I started to see this pattern emerge, Shane. And we've talked about this, where most of my achievements came indirectly. They were like accidental byproducts created while trying to achieve something else. I mean, the question was, how is this possible? And the concept began to fascinate me, and it became an obsession for a long time. And I started, searching out information from people that were talking about these things, scientists, doctors, experts on money, experts on business, experts on spirituality. I did everything I could to try to figure out the answer. And everywhere I looked, I saw another pattern start to emerge of examples. And the world is full of these indirect discoveries. And for years, I just knew like something big is about to happen, but it never did. It just never did. Like it just, when you're like, this is it. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, this is it. Wah, wah, wah. And it is a lot of wah, wahs. Okay. Yep. Until I saw something that I could actually wrap my mind around. And it was indirect interactions in nature. Now, this had to be so simplified for me because I'm a very simple human. But the most common classification of natural consequences is actually defined as the impact one species has on another and is transmitted by a third. So this is known as an interaction chain. So here's how I was able to wrap my mind around it, Shane. So when a predator bird, right, you and I spend a lot of time in our yards, right? And I can't stand anything that flies around me or crawls on the ground around me or is dirty. So I don't know how I actually make it outside for any period of time to do anything. But I love, and you're the same way, I love the immediate gratification of pulling weeds and trimming bushes and cutting grass. I love that experience. So I started to see this in nature, that when a predator bird, it actually can protect a plant because the prey that it's seeking out is the very bug that's eating my plant. So it will swoop down and eat that bug that's putting those little holes in my plants that drives me insane. And so here's what happens. A caterpillar will modify its behavior to avoid being eaten by this predator bird, thus saving the life of the plant. So it stops eating the plant because that's the indicator to the bird. There you are. I see you eating the plant. So it stops eating the plant. So the predator bird coming down to this bug saves my beautiful plants. Now, we just need to sit with this for a second, because this goes completely against our logical reasoning of, in order for me to get what I want, I have to go get it directly. If I want to make more money, I'm the one that has to go and sell it more, or I have to present more options to the people buying it.
Yeah.
And here is the truth, is what I saw was nature creates perfect order from chaos. Human intellect creates chaos from order. So we take something like the natural interaction chain that is present everywhere in life and says, oh, no, that can't be possible. That cannot possibly work. And so what we do is we say, well, this person has a program and they only charge $99 for the whole year. So I have no email list. I have no one knows me. And so I'm going to create a program for $35 and I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm going to create private groups. I'm going to ask people to join my group, and then I'm going to go in there and try to sell them without demonstrating value to them on my product, without them really talking to me about it or understanding it or understanding how it's going to help them. No.
Doesn't work.
No. And an influencer that has 1 million people in their email list can create a $35 product and never have to talk to anyone, because the crowd bias sells it for them. You see, that is an indirect result. I built this list. The list sells the millions of dollars of product for me. I don't have to go and sell it directly. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I wanted to start there. Like, I wanted to start there. I didn't want to have to do what all those influencers did to get to that. Like, so I was like, okay, here's the influencer and this is me. We are like, can't be more opposite. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do what that influencer does and get what they got. No, I didn't know until I met you what that influencer actually had to do to get to the place where the crowd was doing the selling. I didn't realize there was a process that this person went through to get there. Yeah.
And that is the indirect result. So like for us with the plant, we can see the bird and we can see the holes in the plant. But one day when the holes stop being present in the leaves, we have no idea what happened. We don't know if it is something we did. We don't know if it was a certain treatment we put in the ground or something I sprayed on the leaves. We don't know until we know what was happening outside of our awareness, outside of what we saw. And these influencers, the majority of them, the process of duplication that they had to attend to over and over with money, with times, with failure, with money, with time, with failure, is something that you don't see. All you see is, oh, well, they got a program for $99 a year, so I'll do that. But what you don't know is that it doesn't just sell because it's to a certain niche or subject. It's selling for reasons that you don't know, which the big one is what we talked about last week in the first essential, which is being able to sustain the thing. So how they got the thing sustainable is very important, because without that step, they could not duplicate and then accelerate the growth of the list that now sells the $99 product for them. Yeah. So I had to really start to pay attention to my own habits and the things I was doing in my life. And then I had to duplicate what I wanted more of. Well, I had to also apply that to my business. So Shane and I want to walk you through 3 really quick and easy steps you can take to start duplicating the success in your business. Okay. The first one is you have to decide what to duplicate first. Well, how do you make that decision? Well, in Richard, is it Koch?
I'm going with Koch. It could be Coach, but I'm going with Koch.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So in Richard Koch's book, The 80-20 Principle, The Secret to Achieving More with Less, he mentions a theory that states 80% of your profits come from 20% of your clients. As a result, you can expect to get 80% of your marketing results from 20% of your efforts. Now, this is exactly why once we have discovered the information that comes from the process we unpacked for you last week in the first essential of sustaining, we then go and we start testing that. We start writing content based on what we're learning. We start having conversations in a very systematic way, not in a robotic way where we are not present, but in a systematic way, which allows us to be present, allows us to listen, and allows us to understand if the research we did has the potential to be duplicated. Make sense?
It does. And I didn't believe this. When I first heard about this 80-20 principle, that 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of your customer, I was like, no, that's not right. So then I did the math on our customer base. By golly, if it wasn't spot on. And this was a $35 million business. And it was true. 80% of the revenue coming from 20% of the customers, right? And we were not aware of what you're unveiling here at that time, about 20% of the marketing driving 80% of the result. Like, my goodness. If I'd have known then what I know now, it'd have been a different business.
Yeah. And I'm telling you that without knowing why people are coming in, not what are they buying, why are they coming?
I had no clue. I knew what they were buying. I had no clue why they were buying it. I had assumptions.
Yes.
If I was buying reasons I would, but I had no idea why they were.
And here is the reality, is that so many times, Shane, I made this mistake, and I talk to leaders of multi-million-dollar companies and startup leaders. And the thing that they have in common is that they believe that it is the what. And I constantly have to tell them it is the why. You see, we don't live in an age anymore where there's only one of your thing and you can be like a rock star at it. Okay. We are competing every day with influxes of people coming in, having a variation on what we do. And if we do not know how to differentiate, and we cannot get 80% of our revenue from 20% of the people, then we are going backwards. It's a slow sinking ship. And the more money you have, the longer it takes for you to feel that ship sinking.
Yep. Boy, we park here for a long time. I'm telling you.
But we're not going to. So the second thing is automating the small stuff. So a lot of people want to automate the big stuff. Like when it comes to content creation and course creation or automating content, people want to automate the parts of the process that are the most valuable financially. Like the sales process, they want to automate that first. And they want to automate what they do for people. Why? Because they assume that those are the two places their time is being eaten up. When in reality, my friends, those are the most valuable places you need to be, because that's where we learn the most about what to duplicate. And if what we are duplicating is actually going to continue to be duplicatable. So the sooner we either outsource or automate the sales or the throughput process, like for me, if I took all of my time away from my clientele as a consultant, I would not have a business. Why? Because all of this back here is me sustaining. This is me attending to what they say. And they consistently say, Amy, it's the time with you. It is the time with you. Now, do I have automation? Yes, I do. Have I put content on autopilot that is instructional? Yes, I have. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to decentralize the consulting conversation to someone like Shane that's in the middle of transition. If he can't meet with me on the phone, he can go and get what he wants in a portal. And if he wants to meet with me on the phone, he can also do that. Decentralization is very important. So we have to think of every client like an iPhone. this little puppy has taught and has trained everyone that we are trying to sell something to, whether it is our transformation or our insurance policy, anything we're trying to sell them, this little thing right here has taught them, I can own something that you have, and I can have a unique experience that's different from yours. If your business does not give people a unique custom experience, here's what's going to happen. They're going to leave, or they're not going to find value in what you're doing. So we have to automate the lowest hanging fruit first. So what would that look like? It would look like automating parts of the marketing process, right? So it would look like, okay, instead of me doing all the organic marketing steps, I'm going to first automate the very first touch, which is the click. Okay, so let's start to automate the first step, which is the click. Well, I can also automate the demonstration of value, right? So maybe instead of having 2 phone calls with people, I only have 1, and 1 step is automated. All right. I could also automate the qualification process. Now, and we're going to talk about this very soon, because there is a very big difference between convincing people and qualifying them. Very big difference. I'm not talking about convincing them and selling them on all the reasons why you're spectacular. I'm talking about qualifying them. So we put steps into place to qualify the clients, but also to give the prospect the time they need to qualify us, without always having to be one-to-one and on the phone and in the email and on the Zoom and in where our time today is being used. We can actually automate those steps. And then it's also looking at the repetitive parts of our process. That means you have to have documented what your process is. If you haven't done that, you cannot automate the parts that are repetitive, right? So that would be the first step in automation, is what parts of my throughput process are solid, proven, and are something that every single person that's going to come through it needs and wants. So those would be automating the small things first. Shane, anything you want to add there?
You can't duplicate what you haven't defined.
That's right.
You got to define it first, and that you just talk through is how to go about defining it.
Yeah. And I would say the third and final step to duplication is to contract someone who is just like you, meaning they have the same values. It's really even the best thing. So when you go to start to hire people out, or to contract with people, or to employ people, you want to be looking for people that have a proof of concept doing similar work with a similar audience that you have. Okay. So like for me, my best contractors are clients. Or someone on their team that I've had an up close and personal experience with. I don't really put out ads for employment because I want to be selective. I want to duplicate Amy. So when someone comes, because my business does have a certain personality, and it attracts a certain personality, a certain behavioral makeup, and I want to honor that, not try to fight against it or ignore it or try to say there's something wrong with that. It just is what it is.
It is.
Right. I mean, here's a really good case study in personality and behavior of brands. Walmart and Target.
Very good case study.
We could just leave that there. We don't even have to expand. That's it. If you are, you know the personalities and the behaviors of the people that shop there, the people that work there. Oh, another great case study, one of my favorite, is McDonald's and Chick-fil-A.
Very much. Very much.
Okay.
Very much. I thought you were gonna go grocery store on me. I thought you were going grocery store. You went fast food. All right.
I know. Well, people don't know, Shane, our thing. Okay, so we're just gonna leave the grocery stores out of this conversation.
2 great examples. No need for a third. Yep.
Yes, that's right. And I'm going to tell you what, by really paying attention to who you're hiring when you bring them into the process, like part of our work with our clients is it's much easier to test processes that you might not have ever outsourced before on a robot before you hire a human. I am all for employment. Do not get me wrong. I am all for employment. I like to pay people really, really, really well. And that's what robots allow me to do. I cannot, with all integrity, pay someone something that I would not pay myself. It's very hard for me to be like, hey, you do all this work, but look at your lifestyle and not want it.
Right.
You know, it's very hard for me to do that. So I would rather use robots to sustain and duplicate before I outsource it than to outsource it too soon, not have the resources or the information to help these people be successful and enjoy their job.
That's right.
So as we wrap it up, Shane, anything you want to add?
Yeah. So just on that final point around find someone who's like you, you attract who you are, not who you want. So what I'm saying is, like, if you're a Target person, you're going to attract Target people. If you're a Walmart person, you're going to attract. So don't try to be Walmart if you're Target, and don't try to be Target if you're Walmart. Be who you are, right?
Exactly.
Because that's if you go after people who you think you need, then what's going to happen is they're going to come in and they're not going to stay because you attract who you are, not who you want, right?
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Okay, so next week, Wednesday, 12 o'clock. Eastern time, we are going to talk about the third and final essential of really scaling and what that means, and how we can stop attracting people that just don't find value in what we're doing and actually target down and really connect with our people and the humans that find value in us and the ones that we serve the best. Right. So I want you to remember all of this is really about the fact that systems run your business, but people run the systems, you and I, and we've got to know what it takes to make those systems successful. Right. So I hope you guys have a great week. Shane, thanks for the conversation.
I enjoyed it.